experience. And also libraries are actually nice places to study, right? I enjoy silence. Yeah. They're very conducive to studying, I think. Libraries are interesting. What about television? Again, the world's become digital. Do you think television is still relevant?
Yes, I think they're still relevant in the sense that they provide, news from reliable sources. TV broadcasting agency are often from the government, and the TV always provide us the latest news with trusted and insightful information. So I don't think that they are going to be obsolete in the near future. And also they are a great source of entertainment too. We can still find interesting and entertaining drama series or TV programs, reality shows on TV.
Uh-huh. Do you watch any foreign programs, like English programs?
Yes, all the time. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I become, fluent in English, because I watch so many programs in English. One of the first that I, was hooked on is the MasterChef series.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I am a big fan of it and a big fan of Gordon Ramsay, the host.
Uh-huh. So, join the club, me too.
Yes. So since then, I watch many different programs about different topics, like American Next Top Models, or I even watch programs about architecture or even space. Yeah, so it's very nice when you can be exposed to so many sources and topics, and that's how you can enrich your vocabulary and English skill. And I would suggest that to my students of English too. But, with the studying in school, just few of them can manage to do all of that.
Yeah. Every society has what you can call disadvantaged people, right? Whether that's kind of disabled or poor people or maybe the elderly people. Do you think that the internet has impacted these people?
Yeah, that's a very challenging question. Let me think. Actually, in a way, I think technology can help the disadvantaged people. For example, the disabled, because technology can help and assist maybe poor vision or deaf people with machines or enhanced technology, that sort of thing. But for disadvantaged people, when you mean poor people, I think technology has somehow give them more disadvantages. It widens the gap between the rich and the poor. For poor people, it's very hard for them to even get a cell phone or get internet access. But right now, everything is on the internet, and they would be very falling behind if they do not have access to internet or information. So what I see is that many students coming from, rural areas in Vietnam, they do not have access to the latest technology or internet information on the internet. So they are, they have the disadvantages when being compared to students in big cities. And it's very unfair because the in our country, we have the national exam, and they are very, not being able to compete with other students in the big cities.
So in that case, what do you think either society or the government can do to help those disadvantaged people?
I think at first it has to be something from the government, like an agenda or a scheme to help students or young people in rural areas to have access to the internet. Because, access to internet at this point is like having access to food and water. It's essential. So I think government can play a part in helping all people to have access to information, because students there, I think when they have the access, it would going to be helping them tremendously, and they are going to be, it can literally change their lives.
Yeah, I agree. I think that equality of access to information is really important, like equality of access to education, which is a similar thing. I mean, interestingly, even in England and Spain, the government have big projects to develop the infrastructure of the internet. So whether it's 5G or cable, or making sure that there's free access to Wi-Fi on public transport, there's a big push, and I wonder sometimes that if, as that develops, that gap actually is never closed, because as it gets better for the richer people, it's the poorer people are still trying to catch up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Well, and it's a very, very interesting conversation. We'll have to finish it here for today, but that's great. Maybe I look forward to coming to Vietnam and seeing you, and you're very welcome to come over to Spain.
Yes, I really hope that I can visit Spain one day.
Excellent. The doors are open. I'll put the tea on. I'll put the kettle on for a cup of tea. All right. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, kid. Nice to see you, and I'm really looking forward to our video.
So in this topic, searching for information, we talked about people in Vietnam and how they get information. We talked about TikTok. Do you think TikTok is a useful source of information? And also about accessing information on social media as opposed to newspapers and books, right? Some interesting language that came out. Something Ha-An said, talking about TikTok, it has interesting and insightful things. Insightful means it's a lovely adjective. It gives you an insight. It gives you information about something. When we talked about the reliability of sources of information, some nice collocations: control the reliability of sources. You can't, or you can, control the reliability of sources. She said, I think about the social media, it's way more convenient, which is great. A lovely way of saying it's much more convenient. It's way more convenient. That's nice. When we talked about libraries, she said reliable and certified sources of information, which is nice. And I think it was me who said libraries are conducive to studying. I got confused, as I sometimes do, but I think I corrected myself about being inducive or conducive. It's libraries are conducive to studying. So listen, mistakes are okay. All you need to do is self-correct, right? It's fine. We also talked about televisions, and we had some interesting phrases. They provide the latest news. They are not going to be obsolete. So to be obsolete means no longer useful, that they will disappear. And Ha-An was saying, no, that televisions are not going to be obsolete. We talked about foreign programs. Do you watch any foreign programs? And Ha-An said, I was hooked on MasterChef, something you're kind of addictive to. And she said, it's nice to be exposed to so many topics. So to be exposed, lovely form of the passive, to be exposed to so many topics. So to be able to see and to receive information and from those topics. It's nice to be exposed to so many topics. So we also talked about, do you think the internet has impacted disadvantaged people? That could be disabled people, poor people, and so on. Interesting phrases were, it widens the gap between the rich and the poor. Nice collocation. It widens the gap between A and B. And they are falling behind. So I think it was the poor, or the poorer people are falling behind. They can't catch up. Great. Another challenging question was, what can the government do to help these disadvantaged people? Interesting phrases were have access to information. You can also say get access to information. There is a big push to do something. So when the government has a campaign to do something or a scheme, then there's a big push. They really want to do something. There's a big push to help disabled people, for example. So some very interesting language. Let's move on. So what is it that makes Han such a good and successful speaker and a confident one, right? Notice her fluency. She can keep going without effort, right? She can keep speaking and she's developing topics as she goes. She takes her time, which is great. Notice sometimes she says, that's a challenging question, let me think. And it was a difficult question, and that's what a native speaker would do. With grammar, she's careful with her grammar, right? She sometimes slows down to make sure her grammar is accurate, and she's using a mixture of complex and simple grammar. For example, instead of saying, I see this happening in Vietnam, she says, what I see happening is da 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 da. So just that, changing things a little bit to give her a wider range of grammar. With her vocabulary, she does something that is very common in spoken English, and that is repetition, but using slightly different words. She says, to help and assist deaf people. The government needs an agenda or a scheme. Now, it's the same thing, but repeating it once or twice, beautiful, natural English. Notice she can talk about every topic that I throw at her. It's not so much that she's using fancy vocabulary, it's that she can handle every topic and has got the basics and more for all topics that may appear in the test. So overall, it's important that, to look at the reason that she's so successful in speaking English is high level of fluency, can develop topics, vocabulary to speak about all topics, the range of tenses and mixing them up, complex and simple grammar sometimes, and her pronunciation, absolutely fantastic. So it's the control she has and the confidence. And it takes time, right, to build up this level of English. It doesn't come just like that. So you do need persistence and patience. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that it does show you this idea that natural spoken English is really important in IELTS speaking, and the time it takes to build up to that level. I hope you've got some nice ideas, some language you can start practicing, and a source of inspiration. If you want to find out more about Han and her work, look in the description. You can click on her LinkedIn link and her Facebook page. Find out more about her. If you're in Vietnam, you may want to contact her directly. Thank you so much, Han, for doing the conversation with me. And thanks to all of you for watching and being here. I hope it helps. The other day, a student said to me, he said, Keith, what do you think of the PPF method for part 2 of IELTS speaking? And I said, the PPF method? Now, as it happens, I had actually seen a video about this, and there is a teacher on YouTube who proposes the PPF method. It's tell a story in the past, tell a story in the present, and a story in the future, past, present, future, for IELTS speaking part 2. And I said, it's hard enough telling one story, never mind 3 stories. I think maybe it's overcomplicating the matter. I would keep things simple. I said to this student, and I say to you, I think there are 2 simple, very good approaches to part 2. 1, the structured approach, and 2, the free-flowing approach. So in this video, I'll show you how each one works through a couple of part 2 questions and model answers. That way you can learn the approach and some really useful language as well. In addition, I will tell you about my plans for Black Friday this November 2022. Also, there is a PDF of today's lesson. You can download that. So watch to the end of the video. I'll tell you more about it. Or just go down to the description now and get it. And by the way, if you don't know me, my name is Keith. I have the YouTube channel English Speaking Success and the website The Keith Speaking Academy. So listen, let's get cracking with the first approach, the structured approach. Okay, to show you the structured approach, let's take a part 2 question, right? Here's a task card or a cue card. Describe a positive change that you made, okay? Now, here the approach would be, first, you have a minute to prepare, right? Tick tock, get a general idea of what you want to talk about, right? What's the positive change? Then follow each bullet point in your talk, okay? In your 1 minute, you'll get a brief idea of what you want to say for each bullet point. If you've got time, only 1 minute, try and prepare your first sentence so you start confident with a bang.